To Kyle, good evening to Paul, and good evening to Lee. Happy Father's Day to everybody out there.
Father's Day.
Paul, how's Father's Day been for you?
It's been really busy. I've seen the little ones. I've got my cards. I've got my gifts that they've made, and I've been spoilt. But then I've had a bit of work to do in between, and now he'd have a bit of football chat. So good things.
Lee, yourself?
Mine's not too happy that I've left and went and go and talk some football, but I'll say hiya darling if you're watching. I'll say the least of that the better.
Fantastic. And Kyle, you're not a dad, but you had a good day anyway, haven't you?
It's just been a Sunday, mate. Sunday dinner. That's it really. Not much. We look forward to this actually.
Brilliant. Well, part one is all about the fixtures, and on Thursday morning, if you're watching on YouTube, we released the fixtures live, and it's Arsenal at home, 11th of August, so it's Super Sunday. It's on a television channel, which we'll not mention tonight because the competitors as well. But it's a 2 o'clock kickoff on that Sunday. Kyle, we'll start with you. Sunday, Arsenal at home, well, 11th of August rather. It's not the worst start, but you wouldn't want to write Arsenal off at any point, would you?
Newcastle always get a big team the first game. As far as I can remember in the Premier League, we've always had a big team or hard team at home, either or away, and it's just a nightmare. It continues. Arsenal, good side. I mean, they've got some great centre forwards there, but if you were asked for a team in the top 6, I'd probably pick Arsenal because the defence is shambolic. I think there's a lot of questions that need answered over the summer for them, and it's a big summer for Arsenal, just like it is for Newcastle. So they're there to be beaten. There is a lot of uncertainty at Arsenal. I mean, as you've probably seen from Arsenal Fan TV and things like that they don't know what's going on with Unai Emery, and they don't know what's going on with how much the budget's going to be with Stan Kroenke or anything like that.
40 million, isn't it? It's supposed to be less even than what we've allegedly got at 40 million. So things could be worse.
For a team that are supposed to be fighting for the title and things like that, I think they've just got so many problems, and people in the comments, and you will probably agree with us, that Arsenal are in risk of falling behind even the likes of Leicester and Wolves that are showing ambition and are looking to spend money every summer. I mean, look at West Ham, they've signed various players over the past couple of days, so Arsenal face a battle to really kick on, don't they? So if you were ask which team I wanted, it would have probably been Arsenal.
Lee, I know Arsenal and Newcastle have different objectives from now to the start of the season, but would you say personally that Arsenal are in uncertainty, Newcastle are in uncertainty with the manager, with the players maybe coming in? Both teams probably were happy with who they got, because let's just say if Newcastle got, say, a Man City or even a Leicester, someone that go in places a little bit, I think that would probably might have been a tougher start.
I'm not actually scared by them, to be honest. I mean, it's not the old Arsenal that put the frighteners into you. I look at
what dangerous, so
they do have a great attack in front, and I'm sure Unai Emery is going to improve on the defence over the summer, but they don't scare me as what they used to be. So they only won it last year at home because of a wonder goal by Xhaka from miles out, which flew in the top corner. I don't think Arsenal were anything special. So looking at August, you're talking Arsenal. Along with the lads put in a good performance, I reckon we can catch them on the day. Norwich newly promoted, I think that's more of a difficult tie than what people are letting on, because it's their first home game. It'll be bouncing. Thankfully, it's not the middle of December, Kyle. I'm looking at you for that. And it's not on a Tuesday night, because you were dreading that. Spurs away is going to be difficult. They're back at their new stadium, which will be great for the Toon fans. And then rounding the month off at Watford, again, you'll probably look at it and think that's got to be, you've got an eye up 3 points there, Johnny.
Definitely, Paul. Is this a tougher start than it was last year? Or do you think that maybe it's slightly easier on paper?
The trouble is, the big thing is for us, we just don't know which Newcastle is able to show up, and if we have some decent recruitment over the summer, if we keep Rafa, if we do eventually manage to do some forward planning, then like they said against Arsenal, you've got to go into these home games confident of getting something, whether that's a point or whatever. We've got to be able to get something out of that game. I do think the start is slightly easier. I was hoping for a Bournemouth at home or somebody like that, just so there's a little bit more sort of certainty about it, and you get them 3 points, the first 3 points, which are the most important, on the board as soon as possible. But it wasn't to be. We always get absolutely horrendous games to start the season off with. But they have got, allegedly, if you believe what's put in the Chronicle and everything, they've got less money than us to spend. They've got a smaller transfer budget. They've got their own issues internally. They may have to sell to also bolster their squad out.
Let's be brutally honest with a team like Arsenal. How are they only getting £40 million to spend when they get a bigger gate than Newcastle? They get a bigger gate than everyone bar Manchester United and Tottenham just recently.
The most expensive match day in world football, haven't
They have, but I don't get that. I know this is about mainly Newcastle, but just a slightly bit off topic. How can Arsenal not be able to get more than £40 million and have to sell to get these players in? Surely something doesn't add up there.
I think it comes down to its ownership again, isn't it? And I think obviously we've got our own ownership issues, and they have as well. So it's two clubs in a sort of similar position ownership-wise, who probably fans don't really want the owners that they've got. I think 40 million for a club of Arsenal size is quite pathetic and ridiculous. Yeah, when you consider your Aston Villas of the world and the like. Southampton's, West Ham's are spending £25 million on players left, right and centre, and then Arsenal have got a budget of 40 million, which in the big scheme of things really isn't that much at all, to be honest. But at least they've got a manager.
They do. They've got a very good manager as well. Kyle, first 7 games, Lee's touched about August. Arsenal at home, Norwich away, which is going to be tough, as I mentioned, Spurs away, Watford at home. September, I'm looking at the first 6-7 fixtures mainly because there's an international break at the end of it. Liverpool away, Liverpool haven't lost at home for nearly 2 years, Brighton at home and Leicester away. I think there's about 4 games I would say on paper you'd look at, would go maybe even 5 games. I think Spurs away, Liverpool away, going to be tough to get points, that we could get points at if, and 2 big ifs, we might get a new owner, and if we have still got Rafa Benitez. Take those 2 elements aside, if you're just looking at the games on paper, it could have been worse, couldn't it?
Well, you look the last season, Johnny, where we start the season was Tottenham at home, Cardiff away, newly promoted side, and then we played the likes of Man City away, Man United away. Like last season, the first 6 or 7 games were an absolute nightmare, and I think Newcastle fans last season would have took maybe 3 points out the first 6 games. It was that dreadful of a start for it. So it's a better start. I mean, I'm looking at a couple of them games and thinking, you know what, if we play well enough, we might be able to get some points. But to answer your question, Johnny, it's hard to say, because if Newcastle haven't been bought by this alleged if this alleged takeover doesn't go through and Rafa Benitez leaves the club, Newcastle are in massive trouble. Like, the teams that we're playing against will look to play Newcastle, and it'll be like they could be the easiest couple of points that they're going to get at the start of the season. Whereas if we get taken over and we keep Rafa, it could be a case of, you know what, it's going to be a hard game.
Brilliant. Paul, was this fixture list announcement a massive alarm signal to Lee Charnley, to Mike Ashley, but not even maybe even the Binzayan group? 8 weeks a day we play Arsenal. 8 weeks, and I tell you what, those 8 weeks will go very, very quick. 2 weeks for the contract. 2 weeks for the contract, but Paul, is this next week the biggest week in Newcastle's history in terms of where the club moves? Does it go forward or backwards because of this fixture announcement over the last few days?
To be fair, these issues should have been ironed out absolutely months, if not years ago. If we had a footballer, go back to Shearer, right? It was a prized asset. We had Shearer. Would you have let him go down to 2 weeks on his contract before trying to do something? You would not. It's the most simplest thing to do, but the man who was in charge of it is, I've said it before, I'll say it again, he's absolutely inept and he's not fit for purpose. And if Mike Ashley stays, you need somebody, Mike, at the club who absolutely has a clue about what he's doing. The man, it doesn't. I would not put him in charge. He got a bonus, and I don't know how he manages it, because to be honest, I wouldn't put him in charge of the photocopier audience for the toner. I wouldn't, because you wouldn't. He's absolutely clueless. Only at Newcastle would this situation come around. That the fixtures come out. There's no official word still about this takeover. We're hearing thumbs up and stuff like that. I mean, my stepson sends us messages with thumbs up and stuff. Solicitors do not. And at the end of the day,
you've got a good relationship with him.
No, very, very good. That's more than other relatives get. But back on the topic, it's a joke for a Premier League club. It's like this hasn't just sort of crept up on him. He's had ages. You had one job to do, Lee Charlie, one job to do, and you are making a complete and utter mess of it.
Lee, October looks tough for me. Man United at home, the international break, Chelsea away, and then Wolves at home to finish off the month. If you're looking from last year and now into this season, I think that's the toughest on paper. Have we got to be looking at maybe capitalising on the likes of Brighton at home, Watford at home, Leicester away? Kyle loves Leicester away. And
Leicester is a magical place.
What do you think, Lee? Do you think October looking at the set of fixtures, or do you look maybe Christmas, like Boxing Day? We've got Man United, Everton at Leicester, Everton and Leicester. Is there anything that really jumps out here as going, this is going to be a tough month?
Well, we're playing the big three out of the first five, and I think we've got the same towards the end of the season. But I think as long as we get off to a good start, because last year we were catching up until December, and it took a while for us to get the season going. If we play with the wing back system, fair enough. Go with the wing back system if it works, because we don't know what's going to happen with
the manager,
exactly the manager, who's coming in, or we're allowed to buy anyone, do we have an embargo, all that. Anyways, I think getting off to a good start, I think that month is difficult. If you offered 3 points from 3 games, I'll probably take that, to be honest with you.
But we're looking at some of these matches and we're looking at the names, but Man United aren't what they were. They're going to have a lot of new players coming in, and they're going to take time to bed in. And a lot of our best performances last season and even the season before have come against the so-called bigger teams. We are capable of nicking results against the cities of the world.
Yeah, we're in the best place to get points off of them. Man City last season is a good example of that.
All I want for the start of the season is just a good start. I'll even take mid-table, 12th, 13th. You hover around there. We're not 18th, 19th, 20th with no win from 8 or 9 games.
Massively, I think you've got to look at the Christmas time. I don't think that December's the toughest set of fixtures that we've got until we get to maybe Boxing Day. But, we've got to get points in the ball. We can't do what we did last year and get a first win in November. November the 3rd, I think, was our first win last year. So we've got to try and avoid that if possible. Kyle, Lee touched about it a little bit, but we've got Manchester City away in the last 5 games of the season. But our final game of the season at St James's Park in May is Liverpool at home. Indeed. Again, arguably one of the toughest games to have at the last game of the season. Have we got to be safe? Have we got to be thinking mid-table? I know it's very, very difficult. We're still in the middle of June, but it's a nice fixture to have for the neutral at the end of the season.
Like I said before, mate, if Rafa Benitez is in charge, we're well equipped to put up with these teams, because he sets up well enough to deal with them. Like in the past 2 years, I think we've only been beat 4-0 off Liverpool and 3-1 away to Man City a couple of seasons back. But other than that, we've only been beat by 1 or 2 goals by these big teams. And look at the Etihad last year. We got beat at Forest, as Paul knows, and then a couple of days later we went down to Man City a couple of days later, and we played really well. And it took a Kyle Walker screamer from about 25 yards to beat we. And after that game, we were all really happy with how the team played. It was much better than it was a couple of days prior to that when we played Forest. But we have got the capability of upsetting these teams, and we
didn't start though. I mean, last year I know the results were absolutely awful, but when we talked about the league, I'm literally trying to erase that Nottingham Forest night out of my mind. But in the league, we were playing.
You knew that was coming there.
He must have it on a sound clip. Ringtone. But we weren't playing bad stuff, and it was just it was like little slips. It was lapses of concentration.
And that Cardiff game.
Yeah.
300 odd miles.
Well, that was
staying
the Kennedy
overnight,
show, wasn't
not
it, as
being
well?
able to sleep, constant snoring.
Can I just add, that wasn't me, that was snoring.
But all that for a poxy 0-0 draw where Kennedy misses, and there was some random stranger had me hand over his shoulder. I'm like, oh, we need to score this, because it was horrible, the anxiety before Kennedy took that penalty. So I thought, oh, we're going to score, and he missed. But it's just one of them, isn't it?
You can imagine if we go down to Norwich and it's 0-0 right at the end and we get the penalty. Can you imagine? Can you imagine Kyle there?
I wonder what Tim Krul will be thinking. You know, Tim Krul, the former.
Actually, no, Tim Krul's already give his thoughts on Twitter as it happens. He says easy 6 points versus the champions and then Newcastle. So easy starter.
Yeah, I think Norwich is going to be a tough game as well. I think that was one team I kind of wanted to avoid in the first couple of games, mainly because, you know, big buzz around the area.
I'm happy that we got Norwich early, because I don't like going all of these away games in the middle of winter, freezing, coming home 3 or 4 in the morning, like 1 and 2 degrees, my car shaking on the way up, trying to get through past Nottingham and everything. So I'm happy that we're playing Norwich on a Saturday, as long as it doesn't get moved, TV companies. Perfect, you know. So if it plays on a Saturday, don't try and dig me out, Mr. Thompson. 3 p.m. on a Saturday, nice sunny day, you know, we might go to the beach. Fancy Great Yarmouth? Let's go to Yarmouth.
Sky's the limit, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. See you there, BT.
Rob's ones.
Well, actually, this is something I was going to mention. I know we've been laughing about it, but reportedly, to watch Premier League football, you know, obviously we'll touch about Sky, BT, but Amazon have also joined in the ranks as well. It's reportedly costing the average person £885 a year to watch Premier League football, and that works out at £73.75 a month to watch these Premier League matches. Look, TV companies pay a lot of money to show these games, don't they, Lee? And is that just too much? You know, too many subscriptions, too many, you know, £73.75 a month. I'm sorry, but that's a lot for working class people, and we're not all live in London, and that's, you know, maybe what 3 hours works of wages.
As a percentage of your wages, Johnny, I totally agree. As a percentage of your wages, it's a lot to justify on spending on Premier League, and with the obscene amount of money that's being pumped in, it should be reflected in cheaper prices. But as we'll get on to later on, it's not. It's quite the opposite.
It is, and I think personally, obviously, Amazon have joined the club. Why don't we say the club with Sky and BT, and they've got 2 rounds of Premier League fixtures. The first being at the start of December, the second being on Boxing Day, as well. So again, is this going to be the sign of a future? And I know I'm going to ask Kyle, because obviously Lee works for one of these companies, so it's quite difficult for him to answer.
I can answer it.
You can answer it maybe with the Sky head on, but we'll who knows? But I'll get your opinion on it, Lee, in a second. But do you think that maybe, Kyle, there has to be a slight rethink by the Premier League? Maybe do they have to go to an Amazon and maybe a Google or a Facebook and get them to people to sign up that way, just so it's cheaper for the everyday man and woman?
It's all well and good saying that, Johnny, but these massive companies are making billions upon billions a year off doing the current method and making money out of exploiting people, making them spend, what, £70 a month? I mean, it's great for them, but for us as fans, it's like they'll make us travel lengths of the country to get to a 1:30 kick-off and that, make us stay over and pay extra for hotels and that, but it's no problem for them, because you get Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher, they get set it up in a 5-star hotel and everything like that, whereas us fans have to travel down and pay extra for whatnot, for trains and things like that. But
Norwich away is the first game of the season, and kudos to Norwich, £30 is the most they're going to be paying, which is amazing.
Huddersfield did something similar last year. It's kudos to them, but we're not doing it, are we? But it's a good thing. They're trying to change football for the better, but Huddersfield did it last year, no one really followed them, bar Watford for the away support, giving them tickets for £30 and it not going over. I mean, that's something in the Premier League, but home tickets are really expensive.
Newcastle are not caring about the fans. That's very unusual. Very, very unusual.
Whoa.
Yeah,
You trying to
shock,
tell me the speak to win and like keep you in the loop of what's going on? Newcastle would never do
Exactly,
that.
the pro fans.
They always speak highly of Newcastle fans, and they always they tell with the latest on what's going on.
Definitely.
No comment.
Even in the fans forum. I mean, the fans forum.
The fans forum's great. I mean, the last one was what, before Christmas, and now we've got one. When's the next one?
Swimming in information.
Who knows when the next one is? But Lee, let's get your opinion on the TV companies and the fact that obviously it could cost a lot of people nearly £75 a month to watch these games from August. I know I'm putting you in a slightly difficult position, but what is your general opinion of this, and do you think it's fair?
I don't think it's fair for the fan that goes to the game first, because if you don't have a full stadium, that's when football suffers. I think you've got to look after the fans who are in the ground first, because they're the ones who are creating the atmosphere. They're the ones who are used to pay the club. Now it's unfortunately the other way around. People who watch games on TV are contributing more money to what a season ticket holder does, and it's twice the amount, so it's double. However, every fan, whether you live in America, whether you live in Newcastle, needs to be looked after. I think it's a great thing, especially Liverpool. I'm sure you'll come on the ticket prices in the next segment and so on, but Liverpool have done great things. Norwich have. I think the way capped at 30 quid was a start. I think now we need to see more and more, because
A cap on season ticket prices will be a start.
I think for us, because we go to almost every away game, and we're in a fortunate position where one football pays for us to get around. But if we didn't have that, we're talking about 4 to 5 grand, Johnny, and that's a lot of money for a group of 8 or 9 people to get to up and down the country. So
you want full stadiums as well. You don't want to see scenes like you see at the Stadium of Light every other week, where you've got like a half full stadium, even if you're playing, at the top teams. They could play a basketball.
You always bring Sunderland in somehow.
Well, you've got to, haven't you? Because we are obviously there are Sunderland supporters out there, but you don't want to see that. I mean, I think of the likes of like Blackburn and stuff where we've been, and it's half empty stadiums, and the atmosphere, it just doesn't make it as enjoyable of an experience, I personally think.
Yeah, definitely, and let's round this up. Quick prediction from all three of us, just from the first 4 games. Arsenal at home, Norwich away, Spurs away, and Watford at home. Kyle, you first. How many points in Newcastle getting? I'm going to ask you again in July and the show before the start of the season. Let's see if it changes. But Kyle?
It's hard to give a prediction, mate, because of the predicament that Newcastle are currently in, but I'll play it safe and I'll say we'll pick up 4 points from the first 4 games.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, 4 as well, out of them.
I'll be happy with 4 points from those 4.
I'll be slightly more optimistic. I'll say 7. Part 2 is all about the takeover talk. It's been a quiet week this week for Newcastle United. Is that a good or bad thing for the club? And also, what is Rafa's future? Any developments? We'll talk about it in part 2. We'll see after the break.
Till I get up, time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. race, and on we'll go. Through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And on we'll go. Through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go. Through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go. Through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go. Through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. On we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest.
Welcome back to part 2 of the Football Fan Zone on the Nova Radio Northeast on 102.5 FM. Let's get a few of your comments before we go to the guys. Let's have a little look. I'm going for 12 out of 12 points, but it could be 7 out of 12, which is not which is optimistic. That's from 100% Mags. 7 points out of 4 games, George Walters. Let's have a little look at a couple more. Let's be optimistic, Chris Bratt says. Yeah, why not? Why not? Hosselu hat-trick first game. Don't think so. I think he's on his way out.
Hosselu scored 3 goals last season. He's expecting a 3-1 game.
One of them was offside.
And
One of them was an offside goal, so I
remember.
Brilliant. Let's start with part 2. It's all about the takeover, and it's all about Rafa Benitez. We'll touch about Rafa a little bit later on in this part. But Paul, takeover talk is your favourite part of any chat. But it's been very quiet this week. Who does that benefit? The club? Rafa? The fans? Or was it just a simple no comment from you?
Well, I'd start with a no comment because that just seems to be the absolute fashion of the week. It's a joke. I put more planning into a game of Monopoly than these lot do on a takeover, it seems.
Well, you've got to
and
buy
communicating.
first.
Well, yeah, I start with the 2 brown ones first of all. Yeah, Old Kent Road,
do.
yeah, I do. The Mike Ashley way, I suppose, isn't it? By that. But no, I do. I put more planning into a game of Monopoly than this lot do. You know, with regards to our Premier League future, they're messing around with things, and it's past squeaky bum time. We're into Fergie squeaky bum time. It's gone on just too far. It benefits nobody. People saying that they can't say something because of the non-disclosures and stuff. It didn't stop Mike Ashley speaking to Sky News in December, did it not? So why can't he get up from wherever he is down Shirebrook?
He's moved, hasn't he?
Has he moved?
Oh, sports director's shifted out, hasn't he?
I hope he hasn't moved to County Durham, that's for certain. But or anywhere else around here. Yeah, well, I hope he hasn't moved up here, because at the end of the day, it's like this current situation, this impasse. It benefits nobody. The only people who are suffering is the fans. If they wanted to say something, they could. They've got communication people there. Lee Charnley, what does he do to justify his wages? He does nothing. And it's just.
So I was going to say what you're going to say on video.
Yeah. But like, you know, all he has to do is release a very a short statement, something. I know Mike Ashley waffles something, doesn't he? I can't say it on the radio, but he waffles a lot of that thing that I can't say.
Yeah, it smells.
Yes, it does smell.
Flies like it.
Yeah, flies do. So, but you know what I mean? Anything, come on. I mean, it's the saying now. It's going to be before the end of the month. When it gets to the end of the month, it'll be something else. So somebody needs to come out and put some sort of clarity on the situation. And journalists as well. Whilst I'm on with that, you know, one person says left, the other person says right, somebody else says forward, somebody else says behind. The need to get with the programme and actually find out what's actually happening.
I completely agree, and we'll touch about that in a bit more depth in a second, because we've got something about the Sun newspaper coming up. But Lee, are fans starting to panic? Are they allowed to panic? Because again, we haven't heard anything for 7 days. We'll touch about the Sun article very, very shortly. But just from a fan's perspective, I think everyone's getting a bit nervous now. I don't think they were 2 weeks ago, but everybody is now.
I think you just want this club to come out with a statement. I think that's just what everybody wants. I think it'll just settle the fans down. I think it has calmed down, but it also brings in a lot of doubt in the back of your mind, thinking, is it happening? Is it not happening? Because
I'm glad you're calm, Lee, because I'm certainly not. I'm climbing walls here about this takeover.
Like Spider-Man.
It is. It's morning, noon, and night. I've got that many notifications set up on my phone. It's just ready to explode. It's that packed in with ready for updates on anything breaking for Newcastle. It just can't take much more. I've had to book myself a holiday, Lee.
Get this man some help. If there's any doctors and nurses out there who are watching, this man needs help.
Before this process started.
In all seriousness, I think the club need to actually just come out and say, yes, it's progression, but because of NDAs, we cannot. I think that'll just calm everyone down. I think it'll be a little bit of excitement if that was to happen. Like, oh, it's happening. But then I just think something needs to just come out official somewhere, because it's all dirty laundry in public. It's all third party everywhere.
They're not allowed to mention anything, are they?
They didn't stop them hammering it on 2 weeks ago, did they? Oh, we're buying the club now. It's all of a sudden
all through third party sourcing, like you've said. It's not been an official statement. If it was an official statement, then they break the laws.
There wasn't there? There was one official statement, allegedly, if you believe it.
The club are saying no comment to these third party sources, and the fans have got every right. And in particular on social media, I've seen Kyle do it as well on the Facebook. Every time Kyle comments on Facebook, I'll just pop under and say hello to him. He's put no comment like many other fans, and I think it's just clarity. I think they just need some sort of answer, because
it trended on Twitter, didn't it? No comment.
And then I think it's the takeover. It's not just a takeover; it's the fact that you've got Rafa Benitez as well. There's two of them that they're linked together. So,
and then there's a third one which is going like under the radar a bit, which is we're not buying anyone. You look at Southampton, you look at West Ham, you look at all these teams that are buying players, and we're not.
One thing that annoys me, talking about those teams, but I kind of want to link into Rafa a little bit later on, is Aston Villa, but we'll talk about that in a little bit later. Kyle the Sun's article, Justin Allen released a story 2 weeks ago that the deal was pretty much done for £350 million. There was an article that came out a couple of days ago saying it's still ongoing, but it's business as usual. It's better than no comment United, isn't it?
Anything's better than no comment United at the minute, mate. But it's just more of the same. Like the Sun article, it's like a reminder that something's going on, but at the end of the day, it continues to go on, mate. Like the one thing that intrigued me was someone went on LinkedIn and showed the lawyer of Binzai Group this and asked if it was true, and he's put a thumbs up, I suppose. I mean, Paul says what solicitor puts his thumbs up with things, but obviously Mirad Kouani does, so if
honestly, Kyle, I've seen better stories on episodes of Scooby-Doo than what's happening here, man. Honestly, there's a better plot on that than there is this.
Is Ashley the ghost?
He'd be the one right at the beginning. You'd say it's him, and just finish the episode now. But you'd be messing around with Scrappy Doo and the rest of them. Meanwhile,
Scrappy wouldn't he trying to let me at him?
Meanwhile, you just want to get to the end, because it's like you can see the train wreck which is fast approaching. 2 weeks today, we do not have a manager. You're going to be left with somebody like Neil Redfern in charge of first team affairs. It's a farce. We Newcastle United, this should have been planned out so long ago, and it comes back to the man who has day-to-day responsibility for the club, and that is Lee Charnley. The buck stops with him. He has been tasked. I don't know why, because like I say, I'd rather have anybody else but him in charge, but he is in charge, and he is incapable of making the simplest of decisions.
Do you think, though, Kyle, the club have to just they need to communicate one way or another, because fans don't know what's going on, and it looks like journalists don't know what they're going on as well. You can tell as well, because one, like I say, Paul said before, one's saying left, one's saying right, but it looks like when it does happen, they'll all get the same information. But again, nothing's happening. To the club, when did the club have to go, right, let's pull our fingers out and do something? Because it's easy just saying no comment, or they're just trying to defend themselves if, say, the takeover doesn't happen. Is it not that down the line as maybe everybody else thinks it is?
It's hard to say, mate, because there's been nothing official from either side, so it's literally a case of your guess is as good as mine. Any journalist out there, like Keith Downey's, Craig Hope, Justin Allen, whoever, their guess is as good as ours. They may have sources, as they've told over the past couple of weeks. Sources said this, sources said that, but at the end of the day, mate, their guess is as good as ours, and it's just a case of a waiting game, because with all these, with this block on speaking to media from both sides officially in place, it's hard to say where we're at the takeover. I mean, the report's saying they wanted it done by the end of the month. Whether you believe that or not, I don't know. It's just remain sceptical until something happens.
At the end of the day, all you can do is look at how the club is now. Take away the takeover stuff, and we are in an absolute mess. No manager. We've not got any strikers. We've got Dwight Gale. The club's a mess. The only department we're probably okay in is the defence and goalkeepers. Everything across the board is a complete and utter farce at the moment. And there might be excuses for the takeover, this, that and the other, but there is no excuse for the other stuff that is going on. The day-to-day housekeeping that needs to be done is not being done. We're last to do everything. We're last to file our accounts. We're last to do fans forums. We're last to make pre-season plans. We're last to release season ticket information. Where are the new strips? We are last all of the time. And
the new strips are in Turkey on some rack. I can go and get one for you if you want.
Well,
you're going there, aren't you?
No, they're currently in Greece, from what I've been told.
They're in Greece, are they?
My sources.
Well, they're probably in the back of Lee Charnley's car, and that's why he's bringing them back up, and that's why it's taken ever so long. But I mean, all the rest of the clubs, the Man Cities and stuff like that, they've already got them out. You talk about commercial income and stuff like that. We're missing out. You buy your new strip, you go on your holidays, and we are so. Oh my word, we just seem to be in quicksand, and it's so frustrating.
Definitely. Right, let's talk about Rafa Benitez's future. Pete Graves actually was asked by a fan this afternoon. I'm not going to ask you about the takeover, Pete, but can you tell us if Rafa's future is any more sorted? And Pete Graves exclusively told this fan on Twitter that Rafa was ready to put pen to paper maybe just 2 days before the takeover bid was announced by the Binzai Group, so it was very, very close to being all agreed by the look of it. However, and I don't blame Rafa Benitez for doing this, Lee, he didn't sign because he knows if something's in the pipeline, you may as well just wait and wait and wait, and even if it is 2 or 3 days before the contract runs out and you sign something, you never know what could happen in those 2 to 3 weeks. What sort of game do you think Rafa Benitez is playing? Because I think it's what was going to be a very risky game at the start of the end of the season, I should say. It doesn't seem as risky now, does it?
I bet he's great at poker, I tell you that. I bet he's a hell of a poker player. Look, we all know that Rafa Benitez is a political bloke. We know this. He says it in press conference. If he's got something to say on his chest, he'll say it. You just don't know, because there is that, again, we're all speculating, because if the Binzai group have came in April and placed the bid, that's going back 2 months, so Rafa Benitez is known in the back of his mind. Do the Binzai group officially want Rafa Benitez? Do they want him just because of this? Well, they're saying that, but we haven't had, that's the thing though, Johnny, we haven't had nothing official, no way. It's all ifs, buts, third parties. They might not even want Rafa Benitez. Of course I want Rafa Benitez, but
a no-brainer for Rafa Benitez.
Yeah, but this is from their point of view. They're coming in with a business model. The first thing that they need to do is please the fans. So that would make sense to get Rafa Benitez. But if they don't think that Rafa Benitez is the man to go and spend 80, 90 million, yes, we're not going to be happy, but the Binzai group might turn around and say, you know what, I want Mourinho, or I want Wenger, or I want someone from wherever.
It goes to show you though, Lee, right?
Nobody McLaren, Kirbishley, someone's put Kirbishley in the comments. It just goes to show you that nobody knows now in this takeover, and everyone's speculating, and that's why it gets fans worried, because no one knows news.
Yeah. It goes to show you though, with Mike Ashley and the way that Rafa's conducting business, what sort of man he must be for Rafa to take such a hardline approach where you cannot take a word that he says, and you've got to literally leave it until it's literally not even just signed on the contract, until the ink is dried. The man operates awfully and terribly. He's no absolute moral fibre whatsoever when it comes to Newcastle United.
Paul, I'm going to ask you a quick question and a very quick answer, because I need to ask Kyle about a story that he wants to tell us. What would you do, this is what John B says, what would you do if Ashley pulls the plug and doesn't sell because he doesn't want to sell the club, not that he wants to do a deal?
Gonna get Benitez signed?
Yeah, then there's absolutely no excuse. That everything should be sorted to get that man. That is all he had to do, because he has made for a truce and a calming of the storm over the time that he's been here. He has worked wonders and miracles for Newcastle United and the fans, bringing the city together, unifying us, keeping us in the Premier League, you name it, that man has done it. So he has to move heaven and earth. So for once in his life, he's got to get up out of his chair, show a bit of gumption and a bit of passion, and Lee Charnley and Keith Bishop and all of them, and they've got to convince and beg that man to stay. There's no excuse at all. You do not. I said at the beginning, and I'll say it again. Would you have let Alan Shearer come to 2 weeks before the end of the contract? And you would not have. You'd be absolutely crazy, and everybody would say that you are. So he's got to keep Rafa at all costs.
Kyle, before I let you tell you a little bit story about the football club, we've touched on the fact that some teams have already spent money. Now, Aston Villa, this isn't a dig at Aston Villa or anything like this, by the way, because I've got two good friends that are Aston Villa fans, so I've got no hate towards Aston Villa. But
don't like Aston Villa, commiserations.
But
We'll say it for you.
You can say it for us. However, they spent on the verge of spending 25 million on a striker that Newcastle were linked with. Newcastle I've been told, cannot compete and cannot spend £25 million because we just don't have that sort of money. Aston Villa have been in the Championship for the last 3 seasons, and within the first 4 weeks of being promoted to the Premier League, are on the verge of pretty much breaking their transfer record since Darren Bent left Sunderland to go to Aston Villa. Can Newcastle compete with Aston Villa, Kyle? Or are Aston Villa in a different world like Manchester City?
Well, as Mike Ashley says, 20 months ago now, he will not compete with the likes of Chelsea and Man City, yet here we are sitting at this table right now saying, can we compete with Aston Villa?
We've just been promoted, not in terms of the club side, but just in terms
of
£25 million.
Honestly though, you're having a bubble, mate. Honestly, Aston Villa, we should be more than competing with Aston Villa. They've just come from the Championship. They're on
the brink. They were on the brink in the Championship. And how can, with financial fair play and all this thing, which they should have failed in the Championship, how are they able to outspend us? And the reason is because Ashley's got us ingrained in our heads that we should be thinking small and minuscule. When Newcastle United, and as far as I'm concerned, we should be fighting alongside the likes of West Ham, Everton, and the likes of that sort of club.
West Ham is spending money. West Ham has spent two players on
One of them is a Spanish international.
And then you look at it though, and Ashley comes out with quotes like accountants. You can make numbers look how they want to. He's
been doing that for 12 years.
Yeah.
So, he
so
knows that fine well.
you know what I mean? He comes out with statements like that, and then we as fans see clubs who are smaller, no disrespect, the likes of Bournemouth, the likes of Burnley's, those sort of clubs, Norwich's even, all these clubs, and any one of them can outspend us, and we're having to scrape around with the likes of Joselu. No disrespect to the lad, I support him when he crosses the white line, but a reserve player at Stoke, we have to bring in as the next Messiah.
He was a sub to Sado Berahino, and he was a sub to Mambiar Diouf, like Peter Crouch. Like that says everything. If Jocelu's leading our line next season, it's just my God.
But again, the club don't help because they never help. We don't know who we're going for. We don't know if again Rafa Benitez will end up staying, and it's not good. The club need to do better, and this is where I come perfectly to Kyle. I think, Kyle, you have a little story, because we're not obviously going to mention who actually was at fault for what happened, but season ticket renewals have just come out, and there's been an increase. You went to get your season ticket renewed for next season. Some people will be saying why. But it wasn't so straightforward, was it?
Basically, I asked this to be added into the show on the basis that it's just to tell people, like, if you're a student like me, I go to uni and everything like that, and I've went to renew my season ticket, and they've asked me for loads of information. I took my student identification. I took a letter of proof to say that I'm at the university between 2019 and 2020. If that should be fine, but I was told at the ticket office that wasn't enough, and I needed a stamp on me letter or some crap like that. But it's just a heads up, if you are a student like myself and you're looking to renew your season ticket or get a season ticket, just make sure you have all the details and everything like that, because it will send you the other way and tell you to go to the university.
Why are they making things so difficult? They should be bending over backwards to help you. But instead, it's like, once again, they put every block.
Student rates are cheaper, my friend, and that's why they're not bending over backwards for me.
But it doesn't matter at the end of the day with the money.
The thing is, where's it coming from? It's coming from above, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not going to be the girl who's at the counter who's making that decision. It's going to be someone up there.
Mike Ashley doesn't like students. He'd prefer the whole £90 a month
got all them
off me.
student flats going on inside.
True.
Brilliant. It's not good, and again, for me, they should be trying to get people through the door. I don't think that'll be an issue for them, because I think Steve Rafe put on his Twitter that we don't know anything about takeover. We don't know anything about the manager, but I bet there'll be 52,000 against Arsenal on Sunday, 11th of August. Part 3 is all about two Newcastle players, current Newcastle players. The first being Sean Longstaff, being linked heavily. Shields lad, being heavily linked with a move to Manchester United, and Jose Perez. Is he going to Spain? Is he staying in England? If you're a Newcastle fan and is a big fan of Jose Perez, you want to keep your fingers above your ears, just like his goal scoring celebration. If you're watching this on YouTube, we've got a little question for you. Will Rafa Benitez be the manager of Newcastle for that first game on the 11th of August against Arsenal? Just type in yes Rafa or no Rafa, just in the comments for the next 3 or 4 minutes. Part 3 will be coming up very shortly.
Till I get up, time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways. wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left.
Welcome back to part 3 of the Football Fan Zone here on Nova Radio Northeast on 102.5 FM. I said a question for the guys that are watching on like so Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, just to reply saying either yes Rafa or no Rafa about if he'll be the manager for the first game of the season against Arsenal on the 11th of August. Lawrence Taylor, yes Rafa. JGK Productions, yes Rafa. Jack Chater, yes Rafa. Will Crother, not sure Rafa. Chris Lilly, no Rafa, and Paul Kinson agrees with him. A few more saying yes Rafa. It's more mixed, but I would say it's more yes Rafas than no Rafas. Paul says no comment. Yeah, it is probably more yes Rafas. It is, but again, people don't know what's going on, which is a shame.
Please, Rafa.
Please Rafa, yeah.
Please, Rafa.
Please Rafa, can you stay? Lloyd Andrew, no Rafa, but James Fernie, yes Rafa. So John B says the Magpie channel on Twitter posted a pic of Rafa at the ground. People were saying he came to say goodbye. Anyone know anything? It was last Monday. I think personally, I think Rafa went to the training ground to probably just to check if things were going as planned, just in case he is still at the club. I don't think he was there to say goodbye because he didn't have like a bag or a suitcase of all his stuff in the car. I think more people would have probably linked to that personally.
Where did they get that from, that he was packing these bags?
I don't know.
I don't think Keith Downey knew what he was doing there.
Sky cameras were there.
Sky cameras were there, yeah. But again, people are just kind of guessing almost. I don't think even
Conspiracy theories.
I don't think even journalists know at the minute, but we'll have to see what happens. Right, part 3 is about two current Newcastle players, Sean Longstaff and Jose Perez. We're going to talk about Sean Longstaff first because... before I break my microphone. We'll talk about Sean Longstaff because it was the first bit of news out of the two players. The rumour to go in for Sean Longstaff to go to Manchester United isn't going away, Kyle. But for £25 million, do you think that's for his left foot or his right foot?
Well, it's a great question. It wouldn't buy either, but at the end of the day, logically speaking, 25 million for a lad that's played 6-7 games in the Premier League. I know he's played damn well in those games, but to warrant a 25 million price tag, it's mad. But for me, Longstaff isn't going anywhere. I mean, he committed his future at the club. Even even the Newcastle official Facebook page put an interview on with Sean Longstaff saying he was staying. So
Not with Rafa.
not with no comment, not with Rafa or anything like that, but they say Sean Longstaff is staying. So that would indicate to me that Sean Longstaff is staying. I mean, would you believe that? But no,
With this player, Kyle, I think regardless of who the manager is, Longstaff stays.
Longstaff's got to stay. I mean, Shields lad, as people on the channel will know me for. I'm also a Shields lad, and Johnny's also a Shields lad.
Yeah.
Which border is that? Is that the north or is it the south?
Come on, it's the best one. It's the north. But Paul, we can't sell Sean Longstaff until the club future is sorted, surely? Or is that just another spanner to the works if that something like that does happen, which isn't going to please the fans?
At the end of the day, it's £25 million worth a riot, because I think it would cause a riot. If we were to lose Rafa and the likes of Sean Longstaff, you're selling our future. So £25 million, if you look at that, it is nothing. When you think of how many years that he can play for this club, he can be the captain of the club, he can do great things for the club. If you look at that, £25 million is an insult. Absolute insult in today's market, when some of the crazy figures that are being bandied about. No thank you. If it was deal or no deal, it'd be easiest decision ever. No deal, and move on. The worry and the fly in the ointment is Mike Ashley and £25 million. Is there a shop that he can buy with £25 million?
He's wanting game, isn't he?
He's wanting game, and that'll probably be about £25-30 million.
You can just increase his stake in goals.
Yeah. So you know what I mean. But no, it is not worth the riot that will follow. I mean, anybody. I mean, he's got Keith Bishop, this PR person. Surely it does not take a genius. You know, it doesn't take Carol Vorderman, a genius, Albert Einstein to work this out. No. Put the phone down on Solskjaer. Jog on. You can have Joslo for £25 million.
Albert Einstein and Carol Vorderman.
You don't get that anywhere else.
I know this is the football fans on Nova Radio Northeast, but yeah. Lee, is there a price for Sean Longstaff at the minute? If I offered you £50 million, would you go? Right, you can go down the M62.
Doesn't matter who you are, every player has a price. The problem that we have
For the $1 million man.
the problem that we have is we don't see the return on investment. That's the only problem. If Newcastle were to spend and had a history of spending and put the money back in the club, I would probably say you can't turn that kind of money down, 60 million, 50 million, because it's crazy. Because if you know that it's going to be put back into the club, then you would. But the problem that we have, it just isn't, because if Sean Longstaff goes out, we're going to get someone like Mark Blimmin Noble or someone like that to replace him.
Right. John Stones, how much did he go for?
50 million.
That
50 million. Right, so you're talking 150 million. Right. No,
so would you sell for that?
The thing is, in today's market, £25 million is for a bang average player for a lot of the times. So
I think what Man United fans have been saying, that they've laughed it off, and let them laugh it off. We'll have him, as the local media, the Chronicle, have stated.
I think some of the Man City fans were laughing, weren't they, when they saw the team sheet when the player does. But after the match,
Hayden and Longstaff.
yeah, they weren't laughing then, were they? No. And
I think you've got to. I've said this already, is that you've got to build a team around him. Forget your Shelvey, forget your Key, and the other two will probably leave. That man will, if he stays, will go on to captain Newcastle United for the future, and he's a local lad through and through.
Manchester United fans will maybe laugh at that, but would he walk straight into that starting 11 at Old Trafford, Kyle?
Pogba wants out.
I mean, Pogba handed in a transfer request as of today. But I was actually speaking to a Man United fan about this the other day, and he says Sean Longstaff wouldn't be any better than Scott McTominay in that Man United team. To which I said many expletive words to him. But for me, Sean Longstaff would be, if not in the first team, very close to, because with the amount of players going out with Man United, the likes of Pogba, Herrera's going to PSG on a free transfer, as well as that, you're looking at the likes of Mata that's going, Lingard's future's up in the air.
Matic is getting old.
Matic is getting on.
Lingard's overrated.
Fred's
I really
awful.
don't like him.
And Fred's just tragic, but he's like the Brazilian Fred from the World Cup. Like, nobody liked him. He was terrible when he played, and like, that was it.
There's a Fred that lives around the corner from me, and he's even better than that Fred.
But again, you know, Man United fans are looking at young players, or Man United in general, not maybe Man United fans, but they just brought Daniel James from Swansea. There's links. Yeah, Issa Diop from West Ham have been linked as well.
Issa Diop for 50 million.
So what's Sean Longstaff worth if that's the case? But look, it's again, it's going to be a long summer, but I think if you're Sean Longstaff, I think it's, regardless of Manchester United or not, he's going to get people that are going to look at him in the next 12 months if he stays fit.
The thing is, who's Man United? They're a Europa League side at the moment. They're not. The thing is, the Man United of Ferguson's time, right? Yeah, I get that. But so what? The current Manchester United are a million miles behind Manchester City.
Same level as Arsenal now, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're not as feared as what they once were.
Yeah, they're a fading power. So why should Newcastle United be selling our better players to them?
Because if I was playing devil's advocate, I don't want this to happen. But Manchester United, arguably one of the biggest clubs in the world, you know, he could probably.
Europa League bound.
However,
we could be Europa League bound.
But we're not. But we're not, unfortunately, and there's more chance of Manchester United finishing in the Champions League than us. There's more chance of Manchester United winning trophies than us.
No chance of them getting in at the moment.
I'm just saying, at the minute, if you said to me, I've got 50 pence to put on either Man United finishing the Champions League or Newcastle finishing the Champions League. Exactly, yeah. There's loads of betting companies on that. But look, at the minute, we can't compete with Leicester, we can't compete with Everton. We're not going to compete with Manchester United.
At the end of the day, Manchester United, they're not the great shakes. You know what I mean? They're not the great shakes. I mean, you know, if somebody came in from like out there, I'm not saying they would, but the Barcelona, Real Madrid, that would be a different question, like the Woodgate situation. But at the end of the day, for me, it's not a massive step up. They are at the moment a Europa League side. We could be a Europa League side if we had somebody competent running the club.
I'll ask everybody this. Would you sell them to Man City or Liverpool if they came in from?
I wouldn't sell him to anybody, personally.
But you could see him doing well. You could see him doing future.
Of course, he could do brilliant, but I want to stay at Newcastle, and Sean Longstaff has even said he wants to stay at Newcastle. So for me, this conversation is he's staying at Newcastle.
Yeah,
I hope so.
100%.
I think he'll stay because he wants to stay, even if I don't think he'll get his head turned. I do think, though, he's personally best suited for Spurs in that centre midfield, because Spurs are young, they're after young midfielder, centre midfielder. He's ideal for them, but I think Longstaff will stay. I think even like big clubs coming after him, he's committed. He wants to stay. I think he's still in awe of what's around him. He's like, wow, what is this happening to me?
Yeah, the love as well he gets from the stands. Is he going to get that at White Hart Lane?
And he's guaranteed,
you know,
the team to be built around him next season. I generally think he'll play 30, 40 games next year, and the team has to be built around him. Sean Longstaff, mark these words, will be here next year.
I hope so. I very much hope so. I'll just get a few comments in as well. Who's Man United? Haha, brilliant. We aren't competing with Championship clubs. Kenny Wilshere, we aren't competing with Gateshead. We talked about Gateshead's manager a little bit later on.
They're bringing players in.
They are. League Cup draw this week. Nick Muller. Newcastle could still play Nottingham Forest. Ipswich to be.
We're in the second round, though.
Oh, it's first round, isn't it? Oh well, that's a shame. Lee, you're saying that Sean Longstaff will be a Newcastle player. I think Paul's kind of in the same camp as that. Kyle, can you see any reason that Sean Longstaff won't be in a Newcastle shirt?
Like Ashley cashing in, that's the only reason. It'd be similar, be very similar to the Andy Carroll deal. If anything happens like that, where he sees money and he's like the dollar signs are in his eyes, and
the helicopter's landed.
And the helicopter's landed. He chucks him in the first helicopter, or chucks him in the first taxi down to Manchester or whatever. That's the only reason Sean Longstaff will leave, is if Mike Ashley cashes in before a takeover happens or something like that.
So the second bit of part 3 is about Jose Perez again. Transfer talk being linked with, I would say, well, definitely like the top bit of the Spanish league in terms of Valencia and Atletico Madrid both going to be playing Champions League football next season, not like Manchester United or Newcastle for that fact, unfortunately, but still. My first question in regards to this, if them two teams are being linked, they're going to pay big money. Is it the best time to sell, Kyle?
Logically, it is the best time to sell Perez, but we're not going to see that, are we? If Mike Ashley's here, we're not going to see that money. So it'd be like Mitrovic last year when he went to Fulham. We sold him for what, 25 million, and fans were like, you know what, that's a fair deal for Mitrovic. But did we see that money? No, we didn't. So at the end of the day, for me, it's got to be a case of, you know, I forgot what I was going to say, to be honest. Keeping him for definite.
How much is he worth?
We've said before, and I'll say it again, if there was a time to sell Perez, his value is at the top right now, but like Carl was saying, I wouldn't sell him because the money isn't going to be reinvested. The only thing that will get reinvested in is nice new fancy seats for Ashley to sit on and nice new carpet and stuff. That's the only thing that's going to be spent money on. And game, yeah. To me, the link-up play that him, Almiron and Rondon had was absolutely special. It was magical. We need to get Rondon back and get that going again. Because we need to push on. We need to be keeping our best players. He was an absolute steal at 1.5, 1.6 million, was he? Yeah. They're talking 25 million, but again, in today's market, that is absolutely nothing. And these other teams who they're being linked with, it's not like the Barcelona and Real Madrid who've got loads of cash and they never get into financial fair play difficulty. They have to balance the books and that sort of thing. So I don't see it. It's a lot of paper talk at the moment, but I would ideally like to keep Ayoze because at the end of the day, I know he's inconsistent and I know he's a slow starter and he gets better as the season goes on. He scored plenty of goals for us, top scorer. What sign does that give out if we letting the likes of Ayoze Perez leave the club? It sends all the wrong signals out.
Well, someone in the comments, B. Taylor's commented, if Rafa goes, Perez will probably go with him, which I think is a valid point. I think if Rafa does leave, I reckon Perez would jump ship.
Possibly, but again, he's always been linked with going back to Spain. I think it's an easy get out, if I'm being brutally honest. Lee, I've just put here no Rondon, different Perez. If he's missing his partner in crime, do we get the same player? Again, it's a valid point because Solomon Rondon, I would say it's very much 50-50 whether he's going to be in a Newcastle shirt next season. If he's not in a Newcastle shirt next season, what sort of Ayoze Perez do Newcastle fans get?
It's a good question because I think he has got better in the second half of the season than he did last season, the second half of the season. So he's got 11 goals last season without Rondon, playing as the number 10. Obviously, with change to the wing-back system, he's pushed a little bit. It's a free roll on the right-hand side of that attacking third. Almiron has the left. I think it does work better with Rondon in there. But the question is that if we don't sign Rondon because he's in the Copa America at the moment and Venezuela go far, we might not begin talks in the middle of July, and already we might have played.
That probably plays into the hands of the takeover, if anything, though, Lee.
True, but we'll be in Asia playing in those two games. So yeah, the Rondon talk thing's not going to happen. But Perez, 13 goals, 4 assists last season. Valencia definitely want a striker because they're going with West Ham with that with the Celta Vigo striker, I think it is. So I think he'll sign a 5-year contract extension and get a bigger bump or rise. I think all this talk is nothing to do with going home. It's to get more money out of him. I'll give him a higher wage because you can only be on about 10 to 15k because he's been on that same contract since he signed. And that lad, whether you love him or hate him, 13 goals, he's at least a 15k a week striker.
Possibly so. I thought when Almiron came in, Paul, it would give Ayoze Perez competition, and I think it has to a certain extent because he knows that if Atsu does a defensive job and he doesn't do his sort of the bargain, because Rafa sort of likes that defensive winger as well, he needs to up his game, and he certainly did that when Almiron played because the two of them together along with Rondon, it was fantastic to watch him now to the end of the season. Did he need that kick up the backside, Perez? And maybe give the likes of Valencia and Atletico Madrid the chance to go, this player is a hell of a player if you get him going basically.
I think with Perez, the reason he pushed on in the second half of the season when we signed Almiron is because Almiron constantly has two players on him. He's got the pace and he just pushes us up that pitch another 10 yards or so, and that is creating space for your Ayoze. Before we were a lot more slower, we were a lot more predictable. I do think again at Newcastle he's afforded a starting berth pretty much all the time. Would he get that at Atletico Madrid? Would he get it at Valencia as well? I'm not so sure.
He's not going to replace Griezmann's goals, is he?
Exactly. So at the end of the day, I think Ayoze, he should know where he's better off. The grass is not always greener. You can look at a multitude of other players who've left and thought they were going to go on to big things. I'm thinking like Charles, and he said insomnia. Charles and Zogbia and the likes, who think they're going to go on to bigger and better things, but they find that the career after St James's Park isn't all that it's cracked out to be. So he needs to stay. I think he deserves a new contract. A contract cut should be pretty easy to sort out, but then again we come back to Penfold, don't we?
Yeah, back to the same place with the hierarchy of Newcastle United Football Club. We'll just end this part, in the last couple of minutes, we're talking about Solomon Rondon as well. The deal seems to be dead according to James. He's saying that, if there was going to be a deal, we'd get it done a lot earlier. I think apparently I've heard Wolves have kind of, I think what's the word, cooled their interest in Solomon Rondon, which is good for us. Maybe they're looking at other targets. Maybe he's looking to go to Newcastle. But Lee, just the fact that he has to play for Venezuela, if they get far, say they get semi-finals or quarter-finals for this competition, is he going to even be fit for the Arsenal game, or is he still going to be in pre-season mode?
I think it's not just Rondon. You're talking Atsu's in the African Cup of Nations. Almiron's playing today and I'm sure he'll start for Paraguay. Look, I think those three players will come back late anyways. I don't care if he comes back late as long as we get him signed. Even if it means that he misses the first 3-4 games and we have to rely on. Do I have to rely on Hoslu? Am I really saying this?
I think it'd be
Mutu or even emergency striker.
Kieran Clark.
Kieran Clark's got a better goal scoring record. So I would accept that if he misses because he did at the start of last season. He missed the first few games. He was on the bench, wasn't he? Couldn't get in because Hoslu scored a couple of goals, ironically, against big opposition. But
In off his backside.
look, I think those three, Almiron. When I done the stat video the other day, I was really surprised that Almiron wins 2 tackles on average per game. And when you think about that, the tackles that he wins back are all counter-attacks and he runs it, you can create space. So
He's
it's
so
a
hard
massive
work,
threat.
isn't he? When you watch him, I
Runs
was
back like a
surprised.
whippet.
Yeah, he runs back and he puts the tackles in for somebody who's small, and he gets up and he's on the front foot, which is the absolute opposite to Christian Atsu.
Definitely. 54 days until the transfer window shuts. My prediction is going to be Sean Longstaff will be in a Newcastle shirt. Jose Perez will be in a Newcastle shirt. Solomon Rondon, I'm not sure. Kylian Mbappe, PSG, I think. Part 4, we're going to be talking about Newcastle old boys in managerial jobs. How will each one get on? All at different stages of their managerial careers, like Jonathan Woodgate, Lee Clark, Mike Williamson, Stevie Watson, and good old Lee Bowyer. That's going to be on part 4 of the Football Fan Zone on Nova Radio.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I will I get up? Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
Welcome back to part 4 of the Football Fan Zone on Nova Radio Northeast 102.5 FM. Part 4 is about two old boys. Some played in the 80s, some played in the 90s, and some played in the noughties. We have 3 generations of Newcastle fans here as well, that have grown up from the 80s, the 90s, and the noughties.
It was the 80s.
I thought you used to were 80s, weren't you?
Might have been born in the 80s.
You not watch Newcastle in the late 80s?
No, I didn't. 95 was my first season.
Paul?
91, 92.
So close. Part 4, let's start with... Who are we going to start with? We'll start with Mr. Jonathan Woodgate. I think a lot of Newcastle fans... hold on a second, my mic's gone off. You put that in? Put that in, Kyle. I'm going to have to use yours for 2 seconds. So we'll start with Jonathan Woodgate. Might have just lost you there. If we have, apologies. But Middlesbrough and Jonathan Woodgate. I think it's a good move for both club and the actual person himself. You know, Steve Gibson, the Middlesbrough owner, has a history of giving managers a first opportunity, the likes of Brian Robson, Steve McLaren, Gareth Southgate, and Aitor Karanka, and now Jonathan Woodgate has joined that famous list. Kyle, I'll let you start with this one. Woodgate, probably a very underrated defender, especially at Newcastle, probably one of the best centre-halves I've seen at the club since I've been watching from the early 2000s. Does he give Middlesbrough a fighting chance of promotion next season?
Well, I know some Middlesbrough fans aren't best pleased with his appointment. I think some will lean towards a return of Karanka going back in, or even someone else. But or even Chris. I even says to AJT when we were down in Redcar doing the crossbar challenge that
Not when we beat them 2-1.
Not when we beat them 2-1, no, but when we lost the crossbar challenge in Redcar, that Chris Hughton would probably be a really good appointment for them because he's just out of a job. He's great at bringing teams up, and he'd give them the best chance. It's hard to say with Woodgate at this point because he's very inexperienced.
But look, some of the managers, Carl, that he's had, the likes of Bobby, the experience he's had at Madrid, you know, he's got all of the raw ingredients there, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
You know, experience.
So for me, I think it's a risk by Gibson and for Board appoint him, but you never know. It could be a good thing for them.
Lee, he has kind of given away what his tactics are going to be or what his strategy is going to be, and it's very Jurgen Klopp-esque. You know, we're going to press from the start. You know, we're going to make sure if we haven't got too long to win the ball back. You know, we want to play attacking football.
A German name for that to work, Van Hassen, Hutel, Klopp, Woodgate. It doesn't really roll off the tongue.
What about Jurgen Woodgate?
Jurgen Woodgate. But you have to admire his, you know, tenacity of trying to make something work. And, you know, he talks about the youth getting a chance. He talks about, you know, maybe a bit more professionalism going at the club. You know, one comment that I took from it, which was, I think, a bit of breath of fresh air. You know, this press conference doesn't start at 12:31, it starts at 12:30. You know, I've seen journalists walk in at 12:31. That's not going to be the case anymore. If you're late, you miss out. Simple as that. And I like that. I think that's good. I think it's something different. what do you make of the appointment, Lee? Do you feel that Jonathan Woodgate has been given a fantastic opportunity, and can he get any success at Borough? Because, you know, they weren't in the Premier League that long ago.
I think it's difficult whoever goes in there now, because the Premier League money's now dried up because you only get it for 2 or 3 years. So
That's Sunderland now.
well, Sunderland would have still got theirs. But with Borough, I think what works for him, first of all, is that he's a Borough lad through and through. He's a North East lad, and it's great to see. I know we always joke on that Middlesbrough aren't the North East, but they're just in. But
You changed your mind.
no, but they are technically.
I thought there was a small town in Yorkshire.
They're technically North East. I don't like to admit it, but these is the one of the few smuggies that I do like. And the reason being is because when he played for the two, and he actually enjoyed running out to the music. He loved it. He absolutely loved it. Give him a thrill. He only made 37 appearances for the Toon because he was injury ragged. But he played fantastic for us and got his move to Real Madrid. But as a manager, look, I think it's brave that Gibson is keep appointing these unknowns. It's when he get to the Premier League. If he gets him to the Premier League, don't sack him. You know, you got you there because everyone wants this finished product in the Premier League because it's a Hollywood name. Maybe he should change his name to Jurgen Woodgate and sound a bit more sexier. But good luck to him. He's one of the few smuggies that I like to see well. Middlesbrough, I don't want to say do too well though. But
No, bring them up to the Premier League for me.
just got a short away day for you.
But then again, been to Borough and I'm not impressed. Honestly, it's like, do you know Chernobyl that they've gone Sky One at the minute? It's like that's where it was filmed. It was tragic, mate. Honestly, someone commented on the crossbar challenge saying, "Oh, I broke my leg in red car," and God, I feel sorry for him. Like,
I don't think we need to relate Middlesbrough to Chernobyl. Like, but any I was going to say any negative comments to that, we do apologise. But hey ho. Paul, was it a smart move by Jonathan Woodgate to get Robbie Keane as his assistant?
Just mating it.
It is, yeah. At the end of the day, if they're going to bring through young players, to have the likes of Woodgate, one of the best defenders that have ever been around, and then you're going to bring Keane in as well. Again, one of the best strikers and one of the best finishers in the game. Put the two together, you can see on paper that it makes perfect sense. But you are taking an absolutely hellacious risk, because if they get off to the first, say, 4 or 5 games and they've got 1 or 2 wins,
they're going to be on his case.
They're going to be on his case straight away. We know the Middlesbrough fans haven't got the longest of patience. Attendances will drop, atmosphere will drop, and that then affects performances even more. So he's got a big job on his hand to turn that around, because they're not the biggest name in that league. It is going to be really, really difficult, and I think the best that they can hope for is maybe the playoffs.
Brilliant. Let's go on to the second manager that we're talking about, and that's going to be Lee Clark. Former Newcastle, well, he's a Newcastle legend, isn't he? He played for the club twice, you know, in the 90s and in the noughties, so both the likes of Paul and Lee. And me and Kyle got to see Lee Clark in his in a black and white shirt. Very good.
They haven't seen great football.
Mike Ashley era most of my time as a fan, so
Senior for me, 3rd place is the best I've seen Newcastle. But Lee Clark, very good job at Huddersfield. I think at Birmingham he did a goodish job, kept the club up under difficult circumstances in the Championship. Very nearly got the Carlisle job, believe it or not. But he's got the Blythe Spartans, Lee. Didn't see that one coming. Is it a bit disappointing for him to go so low after, you know, talk about Birmingham and Huddersfield, especially like Birmingham's probably the biggest club that he's managed, and he's gone now to Blythe Spartans, who played them in the FA Cup a few years ago. It's a bit of a drop, isn't it?
It is. It is a coup for Blythe, for Lee Clark to go there, because he's done marvellous things at Huddersfield. He got them something like ridiculous, unbeatenly, like 50 odd games or something.
put Jordan Rhodes on the map.
Yeah, put Jordan Rhodes on. Birmingham is a poisonous chalice because of what was going on with was it Young or someone who was in prison, the Thai. Enough of that. There seem to be many of them about. And then he goes to Blackpool. That's anybody who manages Blackpool, are you just doomed at that time? Yeah, prison sentence going there. But it's a sad state of affairs seeing him so drop down. But if you know what, if he does well, because Blythe have been hovering in that top section for a long time, and they've just needed that push. And maybe he's got, you know, contacts in the game that'll get him over the line. A couple of added, you know, quality players. and he's a professional as well. He'd probably bring a lot more into that as well. So hopefully he does well. Look, he's a Geordie through and through. 27 goals in his Toon career. I remember when he just broke through in that 95-96 season. He was like back up to Rob Lee, and he was an adamant replacement, good replacement. So good luck to him, and I hope Live do well, because I'd like to say all the North East smaller teams do well, just not the red and white, that's all.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Lee and Paul. Lee Clark, he has to drop down so low in the football pyramid to get, I'll say, a half decent job. I'm not going to say it's a great job for him, because I think he would have liked to think the lowest he'd have had to go is League 2, if we're being brutally honest. But National League North is Blythe Spartans. If they were to get promoted, it would be the National League, which you've seen the likes of Salford. Yes, they've had money, but they've gone up through the divisions. Stockport County were in the Football League not a million years ago. Has he probably seen this as maybe an adventure and a journey to kind of, can we get Blythe Spartans back into the Football League maybe?
I think it's a huge credit to him, because there's lots of other footballers in this generation who would not do anything like this. So hats off to him that he's not wanting to sit at home. He's wanting to get back out on the training field and to coach these lads and to improve them, make them better, make the club more professional, push it up the football pyramid. So yeah, hats off to him. It's huge kudos to Lee Clark. I will always love him for that T-shirt when he was playing for Sunderland.
Someone just mentioned his free kick, which saved us bottom corner a few years ago.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, fantastic play for us. Was fantastic. He got a fantastic dress sense. He's done some great things in football. He's not wanting to sit at home doing nothing, getting under his missus' feet. He's got out there.
I think you'll enjoy the derby against his mates, though. You've got Mike Williamson, and you've got Alan Armstrong in that division as well.
It's got all sorts. I mean, obviously for me as well, I wish Spennymoor Town all the best as well, obviously from there. So I want Spennymoor to do well as well, who play in black and white. But yeah, kudos to him. He's not wanted to get under his missus' feet. He's got out there. He's trying to do something, put something back into his local community, improve the players, and they've got to be one of the contenders to get promoted out of that league. And then who knows, with the right investments and players, where they can go.
Another contender will be York City, and that's the manager of York City is Stevie Watson, the former Gateshead manager. It's a big year for Steve Watson, Kyle. His aim will be promotion as well. He'll have the Steve Watson derby against Gateshead this season, which I don't think he was going to expect, because obviously Gateshead finished just outside the playoffs. My first question is, in terms of Steve Watson, can he get York back into the National League at the first attempt in his first full season, or do you think that's maybe too much for a big of an ask?
I think he can do it for sure. He did very well in the Conference National last year with Gateshead under a very limited budget, with all the mess that was going on at the club at the time with the owners and executives not knowing what they're doing because of the owner. But it's just a case of whether he can get the players to gel and that they get a couple of wins early on. But I don't see why not. He's got the experience in high division, and he gets these lower leagues. So yeah, I think York City could well do it.
Was he underrated at Newcastle, Steve Watson, Lee? It was about your era, wasn't it?
I thought the Hughie Gallagher was more Lee's era, like.
Oh, Steve Watson was just being. I think I've seen Steve Watson play twice. Sorry, 2 years, and then he was sold because he couldn't get
the throw in.
I didn't say that was before my time. I've seen it, but the Anfield goal. Oh, what a goal that was! But we'll get some inside knowledge with Rob being the commentator down there as well. So Rob on Newcastle Fans TV, he's the commentator for York City. So we'll get some inside knowledge, and we might get an interview with Stevie hopefully. So yeah, very versatile. Predominantly a right back who's moved centre back. I've seen him play up front, score some goals. Even when he was moved on to Everton, he was played up front for us for a period as well. So
watch his space, Kieran Clark.
Kieran Clark, hey, there you go. But good luck to all the North East teams / York. We want to see all the non-league football do well, because at the end of the day, if you take away the big three, a lot of teams are suffering, and it's nice to see the passion come back, and that's what we need lower league football to rise.
Definitely. Let's talk about another Newcastle United centre half, and that is the Gateshead manager, Mike Williamson. His first professional job in football as a manager. Is it again a bit like Woodgate but lower down, a big massive risk, Paul, because he's actually a player manager. He's going to be playing as well in the National League North. Obviously, we know the ins and outs of Gateshead very recently, and hopefully they're back on the right track. Yes, they've had to drop a division, but I think a lot of Gateshead fans would have taken that if it got rid of the owner out. Is Mike Williamson the man to get them back into the National League?
It's a very big if. I never ever thought of Mike Williamson as one that would probably go into to management, to be honest. I think it's been a bit of a sort of a carry-on movie over there. Some of the things that have gone on have been...
That's before their time.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, bit Sid James, eh? But yeah, it is. It's been a bit of a joke club. Not in a funny way, but just some of the things that have gone on. I think player manager is a very, very difficult job. I think Vincent Kompany's going to find that out as well next season. It's difficult to be a player manager. Well, in his new role. But I mean, I wish him all the success. When I think back to the likes of Steve Watson, I think back of so many, again, happy memories. Lee Clark, so many happy memories. Mike Williamson, not so many. But
Leicester game stands out.
Yes.
The only time I was happy to see a Newcastle player get a red card.
And it's like, I mean, I wish Gateshead, for what they've had to put up with and gone through with their ownership situation and the ground and everything, I hope to have a good season next season. And
it's nice to see them signing some players back. JJ Hooper's another one. A lot of them and a lot of the staff are coming back as well. Your mates with the general manager.
Well, it's nice to see Alicia get a job back, because obviously she got found out by text that she wasn't going to be staying on at Gateshead. But fantastic news that she is back, and hopefully Gateshead will do very well. I'll try and see if the Newcastle Fan TV guys can pop along to Gateshead and support a team just a mile down the road.
They're friendly soon, don't they?
Yeah, it might be something that'll get along to the Gateshead International Stadium.
there was a few Newcastle YouTubers who like to, go over there and support the team on the other side of the river.
That's not us though.
That's good. It's nice to see YouTube fans doing very well, and hopefully going to Gateshead and watching Gateshead do well. Yes, let's just talk about the last guy, and that is the Charlton Athletic manager, Lee Bowyer. Very, very good season. We're running out of time. I had to choose one or the other. Lee Bowyer, came in under difficult circumstances at Charlton and got promoted. It was they beat Doncaster Rovers in the semi-final, and then they went to Wembley. They beat some team called Sunderland in the last minute. No, didn't know that. It was.
Whoa. They were in the Champions League final, weren't they? I saw the scenes at Trafalgar Square and everything, and I assumed it was the Champions League. Silly me.
They won the Wheatfield Trafalgar Square trophy.
I've seen something.
The Trafalgar Square parade. It's gonna be on Netflix. So there are, obviously others are available. But no, let's just talk about Lee Bowyer himself. Lee, let's have him spoke to you for a little tiny bit. Promotion against Sunderland, and got themselves into the Championship. Lee Bowyer looks like a bit of a leader of men. I think that's the kind of person I think he is, isn't he? And he has that character about him. Excuse the Brendan Rodgers pun there, but an incredible achievement with their difficult owners. How well can they do next year? Is it a tough ask to ask for anything more than staying in the Championship next season?
I'm going to be brutally honest, I don't know much about Charlton. Yes, I know they've had some difficult financial circumstances. I actually didn't think Lee Bowyer had manager material in him, because obviously you look at him as a player, he was a bit of a hothead, and you'd snapped with Kieran Dyer.
Speaking of Kieran Dyer, we need Kieran Dyer to get a Championship manager's job so they can have head-to-head round 2.
Back in Ipswich, isn't he? Kieran Dyer.
Yeah, he's managing the kids.
He's managing the kids. We need to get him up to management and then draw each other in the cup. I'll fix it. We need to fix a cup draw round 1.
And I think it's great to see all the ex-Toon players. With obviously we've talked about Steve Watson. I would like to talk about Alan Armstrong as well. So with Alan Armstrong, obviously with the Darlington as well, who's Rob's neck of the woods as well. So he's going to be down there. Never made an appearance for Newcastle, but it'd be good to see all the North East sides do well. You're not seeing this on camera, but Johnny was frantic in there. But it's good to see all the North East teams, including Lee Bowyer. It's actually refreshing to see all these Toon lads plucked from nowhere having manager jobs, and it gives non-league more of a focus. That's what it does, and the more that it's highlighted, successful, they might get bigger jobs.
Paul,
Who's going to do the best out of the 5 that we mentioned? Woodgate, Bowyer, Clark, Williamson and Watson. This time next season, who are we going to go? What a fantastic job they've done.
You put me on the spot there. I want to say Lee Clark.
I would agree.
Yeah, Lee Clark. I think he'll get them promotion, and then onwards and upwards for Lee Clark. I wouldn't be surprised if he got them promoted and then a Football League club came in for him.
I would agree, Lee Clark. I think he's got all the experience in lower leagues, so I'd go for it. Wallsend's finest. I think he's got a good project going on there, Live, and I hope he gets them promoted.
I'm going to go for Jonathan Woodgate. I think maybe the Woodgate-Keane connection might get...
Who's doing the worst? I hope Mike Williamson's a better manager than he was a footballer. So
Mike Williamson, I don't know. I think I'm going to...
I'll say Bowyer.
It depends if he's still going to be in the club, isn't he? But I'll go Woodgate as the best one for me. I think if he can get it going at Borough, you know, Borough fans love him. Might not be completely ecstatic about the fact that he's going to be the manager, but let's just see if he gets a chance to do well.
The thing is, though, is he a step up on Tony Pulis? You would have to say he's got to be a step up, because I know from obviously conversations.
If Woodgate plays a pass forward in his tenure as manager, then he's done more than Tony Pulis.
All I will say is the last manager to replace Tony Pulis was Alan Pardew.
You had to do it.
Part 5 is about the Lionesses. They won on Friday night against Argentina. They're in the last 16. We'll get all the reaction next.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. On we'll go, finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest, echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go through the wastelands, through the
Welcome to the final part of the Football Fan Zone on Nova Radio Northeast. We're talking about the Lionesses, the World Cup, and it's England. Talking about female fans of the show. We'll give a little shout out to Paul's other half, Kerry Rutter. She loves watching the show. She loves the breaks as well, by the look of it as well. Definitely. Part 5. England 1, Argentina 0. Lee. Jodie Taylor with the goal after a tap-in from Mead's cross in the second half, but I think that just tells half the story from the game on Friday night, Lee. A good goal in the end. I'll say comfortable enough. Argentina didn't really cause that much of a threat going forward, but England are through the last 16, and that's all that matters, Lee.
The Scotland game wasn't great when we won 2-1. This was a much more easier game. Mind you, the Argentina goalkeeper, I think, had a good game. Kept the scoreline down. First of all, it was nice to see Jodie Jessamine Lass in the six, Carly Telford. Lucy Bronze is only from Alnwick. Steph Houghton's from Sunderland. You know, so you've got a few there who are... Beth Mead's played for Sunderland a lot of times, so we've got a few local girls playing for England, a lot of them on the bench as well. So it was a comfortable afternoon that didn't really threaten were defensively. I can't remember Carly Telford doing a save, to be honest with you. England are through. It was easy. Phil Neville was, he's very, very heated, isn't he? He's pointing. He reminds me of. Do you remember Phil Brown for Hull years ago when he had all the players on the pitch and he's pointing them all. Well, I know the girls were standing up, but he's just like, because he's not allowed to go in the girls' dressing room for obvious reasons, so that he has to do it outside. But it's nice to see, but it's not often where you see that. Probably why it's a little bit unusual, but. Good luck to them, and it will get bigger and better. And whether you love it or not, women's football, because of BT Sport, have at least one game every week now, and it's getting bigger, and the profiles bigger, and a lot of these girls are on a canny bit of money now.
Hats off to as well to Phil Neville, because to be honest, I bet there is a host of other football league clubs on the men's game that probably have offered him work and different stuff. So he's gone into this. It's it's still quite new. It's still quite fresh. I know we've done quite well recently. The Lionesses have done quite well historically over previous tournaments, and it's getting better and better. So kudos to him for sort of taking a different approach into the football management game. It's something.
Managing your country, Paul.
Yeah, it's a different avenue, but you are managing your country. And he's doing an absolutely fantastic fantastic job. The task at the beginning was to get out of the group. I think
the time to look at Phil Neville is now, is how far can he push this, because this side, along with the US, for me, and France, maybe Holland is an outsider, are the four that need to go on and win this. If he doesn't get to a semi-final, I think he'll fail.
Definitely. And Kyle? Carly Telford, as we've been mentioned, got her first appearance in a very long time in the World Cup. I think it was even her first appearance at the World Cup. She's been in numerous squads. She looked very, very comfortable punching crosses out, especially in the second half. I don't think she had to make a very difficult save. She obviously just dealt with what she had to deal with. Do you think she's now England's number one for the rest of the tournament?
Of course it is. They had that question with Pickford last year, though, didn't they? Pickford and I think it was Jack Butland from Stoke. There was a question of who was going to be between the sticks before the tournament, and I just think for stability reasons you've got to keep your number one. So I would say definitely.
Brilliant. Paul, I want to touch a bit about Lucy Bronze. Phil Neville thinks Lucy Bronze is the best player in the world, the right back for England ladies. That's a big statement. I know your manager's meant to back your players to the hill, but to say the best player in the world, it's some accolade, isn't it?
Coming from somebody like Phil Neville, who's been there, done it, got the T-shirt of playing at the highest club competitions throughout the world, representing team. It's somebody who's allowed to comment about it. I think at the end of the day, I think it's very clever management by Neville. You want your players to feel 200%, better than what they are. You can beat anybody. You are the best, and it's getting that mentality right. And if he just keeps it up the way he's going at the moment, then there's no reason why we can't go ahead and win.
Mourinho did it when he was in his happier stages at Porto. I've got to get that in there. In Chelsea, he used to say, "You are the best player. You are the best." And he used to do it. Every single player on that used to just squeeze that little bit of 5% out of them, and it worked. Lucy Bronze, I would probably go along the lines with that. I think she is the best right back in the world. She has improved massively since coming from Sunderland. She used to play for the Sunderland ladies. Her mum's a Geordie, but she's only played for Sunderland because of Newcastle ladies not being professional.
Good name as well, Lucy. If you're listening, Lucy. My daughter's called Lucy.
But she's called Lucia, actually. Lucia, just shortened down. So, yeah, I think... Yeah, you'll have to take that away. I'll take that away from you, Paul.
I'll still give a shout out for Lucy though, 'cause she is listening as well at the moment. So extra listeners.
Yeah. Anyone else? See what got you heart?
Well, I'm keeping
since it is Father's Day.
The listeners' numbers up, aren't they? Everybody.
People are going to start putting names into Facebook and finding you quite easily. No, but I think he is right. The best right back. Come on, stride. Scored a couple of goals in the last World Cup as well. But it's just a talent, definitely.
Just want to touch about Fran Kirby. Very emotional night for Fran. Good performance under very tough circumstances. It was her mother's 11-year anniversary of her death, unfortunately. You could see the scenes at the end, very emotional. But it was I think the win was very much dedicated to the Kirby family. And I think she did pretty well under the circumstances as well. First half, though, Lee, Paris misses the penalty. And yes, it was a stonewall penalty, take them out, but she reminds me a little bit of Raheem Sterling, like the female Raheem Sterling. The way she runs, the way she takes on players, the way she, wants to make attacks. Can you see the similarity?
A little bit. She can play up front. She can play on the right midfield. She was a squad player when she first started off in Manchester City Women, and Tony Duggan was a star then. I know Tony Duggan went on to play for Barcelona, but she's come out of her own the last 24 months, and now is the star player for Man City. She's very direct, very pacey. Just needs to slow it. Have you seen her speak? Blimmin' hell, that Scouse accent's I like a Scouse accent, don't get me wrong. But you've just got to slow it down a bit. It's like that, but very direct. Oh, it does a little bit. But stop trying to dig as a hole, yeah. But I think Paris is another one. Yes, she missed the penalty, but she scored one previously. I don't think the confidence will knock. I think the Argentina goalkeeper, I don't know who she is, so apologies about that, but she had an absolutely brilliant game. Credit to her, absolutely brilliant. The scoreline 1-0, Jodie Taylor, great goal. It was onside. England are through, and that's all that matters. And I think you touched upon the goalkeeper before. It's interesting if it's going to be Karen Bardsley or Carly Telford. Whoever starts the next game will be number one for the rest of the tournament.
Let's hope it is Telford, for the sake of the for the football fan show. Last couple of minutes of the football fan show, we're going to just talk about a couple of Q&As or just little things that I haven't mentioned. We'll have anything. Get you if you've got literally a couple of minutes left, but I'll start it off. Paul, let's talk about England men's team in the Nations League a couple of weeks ago. They're still fourth in the rankings. Are England the fourth best team in the world currently?
Remember, you're on radio.
Yeah, I was sitting there biting my tongue a bit at first. No, I mean, I've never agreed with the FIFA rankings, to be honest. It's just like the national lottery draw, isn't it? It doesn't mean much to me. I think personally, Southgate's got a big task on now, just sorting out a few positions, the likes of Delph and stuff. Players who aren't playing for the clubs, he needs to be trying a few new things out, ready hopefully for next summer. And Southgate's task now is sort of consistently getting us through to semi-finals and the latter part of competitions is to push England on to the next step. He's got to get us into a final and then take it from there. I do think he's sort of rode the crest of a wave. I think we've had in the tournaments a few easier games, and then we've come against the bigger teams and we've come a cropper. I think Southgate needs to learn. I think a big part will be, there's rumours about some of his coaching staff potentially going on to pastures new. That could be a bit of an issue.
Holland's always been mentioned.
Yeah.
Very good coach.
And I think he needs that quality beside him, because I've said all along since he was appointed, I'm not his greatest fan. I think he has his favourites. I think if you're sort of north of the Watford gap...
And he didn't say that when he first came in. He said, I will pick players in form, but Fabian Delph gets plucked from nowhere, who's barely kicked a ball, and straight back in. I'm like, how? Start James Maddison. James Maddison's had a much better season.
And you've got as well players, and you're playing players like Stones, and you're telling them they're playing that Man City way.
That was a joke.
But with the greatest of respect, you've not got the same quality when you're playing for England that you've got when you're playing for Man City. You haven't got the embarrassment of riches around you to be able to play these silly balls. You've got to be able to play.
Well, when you're Man City, how many chances do you have the whole game? You'll be lucky to get 3 to 5. With England, you do get more because you're playing against higher opposition in Holland, and Holland are back from the dead. They are literally the team that we used to think that they were 5 years ago, and they are back now.
Yeah, I mean, when I was sort of at school and stuff like that, the team that they had there...
Careful, because they're going to have a pop.
Yeah, I know. I bet they will. But it was an absolutely fantastic team, and they were one of the ones you'd always figure. But yeah, there's some big calls to be had. I think he needs to make some brave decisions, bring some players in, and he needs to be big enough to be able to drop certain players who are out of form.
Yeah, I think definitely that's got to be the case. Last question for you is all. When you looked at the fixtures, I'm going to go back to the fixtures. Out of the first 4 games, what's the most winnable? Because they're all very different. In one word,
I'd say the Watford game at home. That's because home fans. Watford, I don't think they're very good on the road. They weren't last year, so I'd probably say Watford at home, either or Norwich away.
Yeah, again, I think I would agree. I would go with Watford. We should not be worrying ourselves with the likes of Watford. We are Newcastle United, and I maintain that we are a much bigger club than them. So yeah, I think the one that should be the easiest technically is Watford.
I would agree, but I'd be pretty disappointed if we come from away from Carrow Road with nothing. I'd be more upset that we didn't get something there than we didn't at home at Watford. I expect 6 points from those two. I think we're on a level playing field. Norwich have got, no disrespect, a lot of, I don't want to say has-beens, but a lot of free agents and cheap buys put together, which is, again proves the job that he's done down there. The German, fantastic. 6 points it's got to be.
That's a good way to end things. My thanks to Lee Lawler, to Paul and Kerry and Lucy Rotter, and to Kyle Thompson. The Football Fan Zone will be back next Sunday from 6 o'clock. You know, the football keeps on rolling even if the season is finished. It's only 8 weeks until Newcastle kick off the season against Arsenal.
Pre-season starts soon.
Pre-season is not too far away. Thanks very much for watching if you've been watching on YouTube, and if you've been listening on Nova Radio North East 102.5 FM, thank you very much. We'll see you next Sunday.